Hey friends, and welcome back to A Simple Truth. 2 Samuel is where we are today. That's where we're going to be spending most of our time. 2 Samuel 11 and 12. David and Bathsheba is what we are covering today. So have been waiting for it, along with David and Goliath. It's one of the most famous stories, and for good reason. There is some really intense stuff that happens in this chapter. Well, I should say in these chapters, because there's fallout that continues into chapter 12, and indeed the rest of David's life as well. We're also going to take a look at 1 Chronicles 20. So last time, looking at praises, pleas, we looked at that doxology. Today, as I mentioned, we are going to be looking at David and then his I was going to say relationship, his interactions with Uriah, that is the husband of Bathsheba. So we'll be looking at that. Nathan confronting David, again, that'll be in chapter 12. And then Rebbah conquered and more giants destroyed. And we'll see that in 1 Chronicles. So again, starting out 2 Samuel 11 through 12. So chapter 11. It happened in the spring of the year, at the time when kings go out to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him, and all Israel, and they destroyed the people of Ammon and besieged Rebbah. But David remained at Jerusalem. Then it happened one evening that David arose from his bed and walked on the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful to behold. So David sent and inquired about the woman, and someone said, "Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" Then David sent messengers and took her, and she came to him, and he lay with her, for she was cleansed from her impurity, and she returned to her house. And the woman conceived, so she sent and told David and said, "I am with child." Then David sent to Joab, saying, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." And Joab sent Uriah to David. When Uriah had come to him, David asked how Joab was doing, and how the people were doing, and how the war prospered. And David said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." So Uriah departed from the king's house, and a gift of food from the king followed him. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and did not go down to his house. So when they told David, saying Uriah did not go down to his house, David said to Uriah, "Did you not come from a journey? Why did you not go down to your house?" And Uriah said to David, "The ark and Israel and Judah are dwelling in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in the open fields. Shall I then go to my house and eat and drink and lie with my wife? As you live, as your soul lives, I will not do this thing." Then David said to Uriah, "Wait here today also, and tomorrow I will let you depart." So Uriah remained in Jerusalem that day and the next. Now when David called him, he ate and drank before him, and he made him drink. At that evening he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his lord, but he did not go down to his house. In the morning it happened that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. And he wrote it in the letter, saying, "Set Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retreat from him, that he may be struck down and die." So it was, while Joab besieged the city, that he assigned Uriah to a place where he knew there were valiant men. Then the men of the city came out and fought with Joab, and some of the people of the servants of David fell, and Uriah the Hittite died also. Then Joab sent and told David all the things concerning the war, and charged the messenger, saying, "When you have finished telling the matters of the war to the king, if it happens that the king's wrath arises, and he says to you, 'Why did you approach so near to the city when you fought? Did you not know that they would shoot from the wall? Who struck Abimelech, the son of Jerubbesheth? Was it not a woman who cast a piece of a millstone on him from the wall, so that he died in Thebes? Why did you go near the wall?' Then you shall say, 'Your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also.'" So the messenger went and came and told David all that Joab had said to him. And the messenger said to David, "Surely the men prevailed against us, and came out in the field. Then we drove them back as far as the entrance of the gate. The archers shot from the wall at your servants, and some of the king's servants are dead. And your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also." Then David said to the messenger, "Thus you shall say to Joab, 'Do not let this thing displease you, for the sword devours one as well as the other. Strengthen your attack against the city and overthrow it.' So encourage him." When the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah her husband was dead, she mourned for her husband. And when her mourning was over, David sent and brought her to his house, and she became his wife and bore him a son. But the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. Chapter 12. Then the Lord sent Nathan to David, and he came to him and said to him, There were 2 men in one city, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceedingly many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb which he had brought and nourished. And it grew up together with him and with his children. It ate his own food and drank from his own cup, and it lay in his bosom, and it was like a daughter to the man. And a traveler came to the rich man, who refused to take from his own flock and from his own herd to prepare one for the wayfaring man who had come to him. But he took the poor man's lamb and prepared it for the man who had come to him. So David's anger was greatly aroused against the man. And he said to Nathan, As the Lord lives, the man who has done this shall surely die, and he shall restore 4-fold for the lamb, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. Then Nathan said to David, You are the man. Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your keeping, and gave you the house of Israel and Judah. And if that had been too little, I would have given you much more. Why have you despised the commandment of the Lord, to do evil in his sight? You have killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword. You have taken his wife to be your wife, and have killed him with the sword of the people of Ammon. Now, therefore, the sword shall never depart from your house, because you have despised me, and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. Thus says the Lord, Behold, I will raise up adversity against you from your own house. I will take from your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor, and he shall lie with your wives in the sight of the sun. For you did it discreetly, but I will do this thing before all Israel, before the sun. So David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said to David, The Lord also has put away your sin. You shall not die. However, because by this deed you have given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme, the child also who is born to you shall surely die. Then Nathan departed to his house. And the Lord struck the child, and Uriah's wife bore to David, and it became ill. David therefore pleaded with God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night on the ground. So the elders of the house arose and went to him, to raise him from the ground. But he would not, nor did he eat food with them. Then on the 7th day it came to pass that the child died. And the servants of David were afraid to tell him that the child was dead. For they said, Indeed, while the child was alive we spoke to him, and he would not heed our voice. How can we tell him that the child is dead? He may do some harm. When David saw that his servants were whispering, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said to his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, He is dead. So David arose from the ground, washed and anointed himself, and changed his clothes. And he went into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he went down to his own house, and when he requested, they sent food before him, and he ate. Then his servants said to him, What is this that you have done? You fasted and wept for the child while he was alive. But when the child died, you arose and ate food. And he said, While the child was alive, I fasted and wept. For I said, Who can tell whether the Lord will be gracious to me, that the child may live? But now he is dead. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? And I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. Then David comforted Bathsheba, his wife, and went into her and lay with her. So she bore a son, and he called his name Solomon. Now the Lord loved him, and he sent word by the hand of Nathan the prophet. So he called his name Jedediah, because of the Lord. Now Joab fought against Rebbah of the people of Ammon, and took the royal city. And Joab sent messengers to David, and said, I have fought against Rebbah, and I have taken the city's water supply. Now, therefore, gather against the people together and encamp against the city, and take it, lest I take the city, and it be called after my name. So David gathered all the people together, and went to Rebbah, fought against it, and took it. Then he took their king's crown from his head. Its weight was a talent of gold, with precious stones, and it was set on David's head. Also, he brought out the spoil of the city in great abundance, and he brought out the people who were in it, and put them to work with saws and iron picks and iron axes, and made them cross over to the brickworks. So he did to all the cities of the people of Ammon. Then David and all the people returned to Jerusalem. And 1 Chronicles 20. It happened in the spring of the year, at the time that kings go out to war, that Joab led the armed forces and ravaged the country of the people of Ammon, and came out and besieged Rebbah. But David stayed at Jerusalem, and Joab defeated Rebbah and overthrew it. Then David took their king's crown from his head, and found it to weigh a talent of gold, and there were precious stones in it, and it was set on David's head. Also he brought out the spoil of the city in great abundance, and he brought out the people who were in it, and put them to work, with saws, with iron picks, and with axes. So David did to all the cities of the people of Ammon. Then David and all the people returned to Jerusalem. Now it happened afterward the war broke out with Gezer, with the Philistines at the time. Shibachai the Hushathite killed Sappai, who was one of the sons of the giant, and they were subdued. Again there was war with the Philistines. Elhanan, the son of Jair, killed Lashmi, the brother of Goliath the Gittite, the shaft of whose spear was like a weaver's beam. Yet again there was war with Gath, where there was a man of great stature, with 24 fingers and toes, 6 on each hand and 6 on each foot. And he also was born to the giant. So when he defiled Israel, Jonathan, the son of Shimei, David's brother, killed him. These were born to the giant in Gath, and they fell by the hand of David, and by the hand of his servants. So I don't know why when reading that, as I was just reading this right before, it reminded me of the Jesus Storybook Bible. So for those of you that have read it or have seen it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you that don't, I'm reading the Jesus Storybook Bible, or I have been, to my daughter, just as she's getting ready for bed, or we're getting her ready for bed. And every story in there, be it Old Testament, obviously New Testament, every story points to Jesus. And I was reading that and wondering just why every single story does that. Is that necessary? And the more I thought about it, and the more I kind of mulled it over, it became very clear to me, I should say, why that is. And I think it's so easy to gloss over, or to not think about in our everyday activities, the impact that Jesus should have on our life, and the impact of the story, the impact of the ramifications of that story. So I've been thinking about that a lot, and I don't know why. I don't know why this reminded me of that. I don't even know if David and Bathsheba is in the Jesus Storybook Bible, but for some reason that kind of clicked and reminded me of it. And so I guess that was just maybe my reminder, and I guess I'm sharing that with you all, is maybe spend some time really being mindful in your day-to-day activities, and taking those opportunities to kind of stop what you're doing and focus on God, focus on Jesus, and what he has done for you. And we see David do that very often in the Psalms, just recognizing that despite the hardship that he's going through, despite all the terribleness that he's going through, he remembers God. And even in this story, he's remembering God with the death of his firstborn son. He immediately goes to praise, even after hardship. And that's something I know I can take a huge cue from. But yeah, I will leave it at that. And I will say, as always, thanks so much for joining. Have a great rest of your day.